Is it before?
Oh, after.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just give a little intro.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, great. Thank you.
All right, are we ready?
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Got it, okay. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 11, 2019. The notice was, on that date, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader and the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Mrs. Rowley, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle?
Here.
Council members Habagood?
Here.
Parmalee?
Here.
LaGrippo?
Here.
Katz?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Contract?
Here.
Dardia?
Here.
Boyce?
Here.
Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Hapgood and remain standing for the flag.
Good evening, everyone. In a couple of minutes, we're going to be having a resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage, hence why so many of us are dressed in white tonight. So I thought for the invocation it would be appropriate for me to read the words of a song that were sung by a number of the suffragettes. It's called Happy Hallelujahs. Great wrongs in need of righting should be righted right away. The principle of justice should be honored every day. The right should never linger for a moment by the way, as truth goes marching on. The world is growing better, and the time is near at hand when the civic wrongs of woman shall be banished from the land, and she shall have the ballot in response to her demand, as truth goes marching on. And when the old injustice with its cruel wrongs shall cease, and woman long in bondage shall be granted her release, our happy hallelujahs shall proclaim the dawn of peace, as truth goes marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah, as truth goes marching on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here this evening. I'm going to make a few remarks, and then we've got a great resolution to read, and then we're going to move on to the Parks Plan, which I know is why many of you all are here tonight. So, and regarding the Parks Plan, we do have a packed agenda tonight, and it's going to kick off with a presentation by Pat Hoagland from Brandstetter Carroll, the firm we hired to produce the Strategic Parks and Recreation Plan. It is a very detailed and exciting document, and I hope all of you have had the chance to review in detail. You'll get a summary of it this evening. As you know, the Parks Plan process included several public workshops, an online survey that yielded tremendous feedback from the community, which ultimately shaped this plan. And I just really want to make sure to thanks all those that provided their input, not only in the public, but a special thanks to the steering committee, which included 4 members of the Recreation Commission, Larry McDermott, Ruth Maloney, Monica Bergen, Gary Fox, our Recreation Director, Don Bogardus, and Assistant Director, Heather Ray, Town Administrator, Jim Gilday, Public Works Director, Greg O'Neill, Freeholder and Westfield resident, Kim Palmieri Mudet, who's here tonight, School District Business Administrator Dana Sullivan, and Council members Mark LaGrippo and Mike Dardia. So it was a very inclusive process, and you're going to hear a lot about that this evening. And I also think, though, it's warranted to extend special thanks to those who did work on the initial Tamaqua Field Plan a few years ago, and particularly to former Councilman and Recreation Commission member Peter Eshaws. Their persistence in advocating for new fields has really led us to where we are today, which much of the work informing many of tonight's recommendations. So I hope you'll be as excited about this admittedly very ambitious plan, which provides a 10-year roadmap for our parks, recreation opportunities, and open spaces. And we will be voting on a resolution later tonight to formally refer the Parks Plan to the Planning Board for adoption and to the Master Plan reexamination. That is not something that's normally or statutorily required, but we want to create a level of formality and accountability, quite frankly, for this plan in the 10 years that it calls for going into. So just a little update on the Rialto. We had applied for a grant to support a feasibility study, which unfortunately just learned we did not get, and it was really to identify the highest and best use of the building as a potential performing arts center. We are in the midst of performing other sources of funding. If anybody has any ideas, we're all ears, including from the county, but I am disappointed that we have yet to find a general investment partner to bear some of the risk in pursuing this endeavor. I do remain optimistic that a solution will emerge, but we do have to ensure that it's ultimately one that works for both all of our residents and taxpayers. Tonight, we're also voting on a resolution to authorize participation in the Law Enforcement Support Officer Program in order to authorize disposal of military equipment that was previously acquired but no longer needed. Other communities have expressed interest in obtaining the equipment. We actually have to get back into the program in order to get rid of it. I do really want to commend Chief Chris Batalora, who has done an amazing job of really trying to drive operating efficiencies throughout the department, and in this case also with the support of DPW Director Greg O'Neill. They've already disposed of lots of unnecessary old military equipment, and if you go to the Conservation Center, you will see what used to be like a military vehicle storage now has lots of great room for DPW equipment and Conservation Center activities, so which is great. I also, tonight, we're voting on the second reading of an ordinance to expand the Downtown Westfield Corporation's board. I just want to clear up, there were some inaccuracies in the press when we discussed it last time about the purpose of the change, so I just want to reiterate that the sole intent of this new ordinance is to expand the representation of the board to better reflect a town of our size. And in particular, it was to make sure that we could ensure lots of different voices, residents, businesses, and property owners, and in particular be able to include people from both the north and the south side. Having a small board made that very difficult. Nothing changes how members are appointed, and a vote by a council majority is still required. The wording of the ordinance was simply changed to make sure it was consistent with how other boards and commissions are appointed. So we are very excited, though, about the added possibilities of all the talent that's going to bring around the table to really guide the future of our downtown. And lastly, many of you know, I do want to address tonight's vote resolution to increase the annual sewer fee. I know there's been some chatter about it. And it's the sewer fee from the Rahway Valley Sewerage Authority is an operating expense which unfortunately the town has no control, one of many. We have been paying this since the 50s. In 2012, the town began issuing an annual sewer fee to residents at a 50% subsidy rate to offset some of these costs. While we have kept the bill virtually flat in that time, our costs have increased substantially, over $750,000 in the last 3 years alone, a 30% increase. So as we look at this year's budget, we are actually now subsidizing 60% of these RVSA costs. Many municipalities in the states don't subsidize any at all. I think the average sewer fee rate in the state is $300, so we're still well below that. And it's awfully hard to continue to subsidize increased costs when the town only receives 16% of the dollars we collect. So it's very hard for us to absorb that level of increase within our existing budget. So the resolution tonight increases the sewer fee for residents by $30 for the year, and that brings our subsidy back to its original intended 50%, and that will be reflected in the March sewer bill. So it's never fun to deliver that news, but I wanted to make sure that you all had the context for that decision. And lastly, good news for those who are looking for an alternative to Facebook. Our meetings can now be viewed online. We have our own YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go and get a replay of tonight's activity, check out YouTube, and that's where it will be. Because I know it really makes for a really crazy, happy, exciting viewing. Exactly. So tonight we're going to accelerate. Resolutions usually come later, but we're going to do a resolution of the Committee of the Whole, which means this is a resolution that the Council would all agree on. And that is our resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Yesterday, or Sunday, was the 100th anniversary of New Jersey's vote to ratify the 19th Amendment. So I'm going to do something a little unorthodox. I'm going to come up front. I'm going to ask these two women, and I'm going to ask all you ladies out there to come up here while I read this resolution. So come on up.
They are out of copy, so this is just for me for the minutes.
But Davidson.
What's that?
Now I'll have to drink at a bottle.
What's that?
Hey, Kim, how are you?
Oh, God.
Hey, Kim, how's it going? Hello, ladies.
That's quite a Ruth, get up here.
Wow, this is great.
I just called you. Come on, you are, come on, come on. Absolutely. You get up here.
Seriously.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. This is great. Where's Lynn? Okay, there you are. You get lost in all this sea of white. Okay. This is a resolution celebrating the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. Whereas 2020 marks the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, guaranteeing and protecting women's right to vote. And whereas this centennial offers an opportunity to commemorate a milestone of democracy, that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the federal or state governments on account of gender. And whereas New Jersey has had a long, storied history in the suffrage movement, with New Jersey women playing a crucial role in pursuing the rights of women to vote. And whereas in 1776, women property owners were enfranchised under the New Jersey State Constitution, which was unique in the nation at the time. However, in 1807, the New Jersey legislature eliminated the property requirement for voting rights and limited the ballot to white males. And whereas in 1867, New Jersey residents Lucy Stone and Harry Blackwell organized the New Jersey Women's Suffrage Association, devoted to gaining women's suffrage. And whereas in 1909, New Jersey's first open-air suffrage rallies were held in Orange and Newark, led by Dr. Emma O. Gantz and Martha Klatchkin, with the NJWSA collecting 5,000 signatures for a petition in support of the federal amendment guaranteeing and protecting women's constitutional right to vote. And whereas, although the 1912 state referendum on women's suffrage was soundly defeated in the New Jersey legislature, a corner was turned for the New Jersey suffrage movement. And whereas in 1913, an automobile rally led by General Rosalie Jones traveled through New Jersey on the way to Washington, D.C., and a suffrage parade of over 8,000 marchers with many New Jersey women, including event organizer Alice Paul. And whereas in 1915, a second suffrage constitutional referendum was pursued in New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, with active campaigns by many suffrage organizations, including the passing of the Torch of Liberty via tugboats on the Hudson River from New York to New Jersey, but was defeated in all 4 states October 1915. Learning a lot, aren't you? And whereas, didn't come easy. In 1917, New Jersey suffragists Allison Turnbull Hopkins, Julia Holbert, Beatrice Reynolds Kincaid, and Minnie D. Abbott picketed in front of the White House as part of the Silent Sentinels and subsequently were arrested and imprisoned. And whereas on June 4th, 1919, Congress passed the 19th Amendment guaranteeing all American women the right to vote. And whereas on February 9th, 1920, New Jersey became the 29th state to ratify the 19th Amendment granting women the right to vote. And whereas, shortly after the ratification of the 19th Amendment, Margaret Laird and Jenny Van Ness were the first 2 women elected to the New Jersey Assembly in 1921 and in 1925. Rebecca Estelle Bourgeois Winston of Estelle Manor was New Jersey's first woman mayor. Now, therefore, be it resolved, in honor of the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, the town of Westfield will light the municipal building in purple. We tried. We didn't get it done today. One of the colors of the New Jersey suffrage movement. Be it further resolved that the mayor and town council of the town of Westfield supports the efforts of New Jersey suffrage centennial New Jersey Women Vote and strongly encourages local celebrations of the historic milestone. And be it further resolved that the mayor and town council of the town of Westfield will transmit copies of this resolution to federal and state elected officials, including the governor of the state of New Jersey, the secretary of state, and the New Jersey League of Municipalities. Thank you, ladies. Thank you all.
Dave? Can't believe our state legislature turned it down so many times.
No, we were the 29th.
We were only the 29th state.
Slow.
Well, that was fun. Okay, so now switching gears a bit. I think I'm handing this over to Pat from, right? Is that right? Brad Center Carroll for the recreation plan? Yep, and we're going to come out that way. Yep.
All right, while Pat's setting this up, just want to just brief introduction again, as the mayor mentioned. This is, if you haven't read the report, it's a very comprehensive plan that Brand Senator Carroll, Pat Hogan, and his group did. And again, it provides a roadmap really for the next 10 years or more of recommendations and capital planning for all of our park system. It's really the first time in recent history that we've had a comprehensive look at all of our parks. And as a former assistant director of the recreation department, I can tell you this is very exciting, not just for the town, but everyone who uses our park system. And if you haven't seen the plan, there's recommendations for every user group of all of our facilities, which is great. It's not just one group. It's really something that will, over time, as we implement these things, will benefit the entire community. For people that have kids in sports now, people who actually have kids who age out of the sports and go into other things, between walking trails, and if you haven't seen the report, you might be kind of surprised at some of the priorities that came out of the public input as well. So I just want to thank Pat and everyone on the steering committee that worked together on this, and the public input we received from sports leagues and residents all across the town. Last summer and fall and spring, actually. So I'll turn it over to Pat to make this summary presentation. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight after about a year of working with the community. We worked in about 75 different communities, and they're all unique, but yours is unique in a wide variety of very positive ways. There's a lot of passion in this town for your parks, recreation activities. I usually chuckles there, but it's the truth. Typically, when we do surveys that we send out to a random sample, we get about 20% back. We got 30% here. Okay, we had 1,500 people do an online survey and one that can be done by hand. So there's a lot of passion there. People use the parks at a lot higher level than other communities. When we asked people in the surveys, have you visited a park in Westfield in the last year, 92% had participated in one way or another. The company that does the surveys for us has done about 700 of these throughout the country, and it's normally 78%. So 92 is a lot higher. So a lot higher percentage of people use your parks, which is a real testament to what you've got. The quality of the sports programs in this community, the pride that you have in those sports programs is higher than most communities we've seen. The way that the schools, the leagues, youth leagues work together to build that system is great. The partnership that you've got between those organizations works really well, but there's always room for improvement. One of the things we found is all that high use of your facilities plays a toll on the quality of those facilities. Grass never has a chance to grow on those facilities. You've got not just those active sports facilities that most people between the ages of 8 and 14 use, but for the rest of the community, you've got a lot of beautiful passive areas that are really undiscovered gems, places that people, and you'll see from some of the survey results, people like those passive and natural areas. I think the reason that I see so many people walking at Tamaqua Park is because it's not just sports fields out there. There's a lot of trees and nature, and people really enjoy that. So it's people don't want to be, Sid Fay Houlihan, it's great if you're playing soccer or other sports, but for anybody else, it doesn't offer anything. It's not a great environment next to railroad tracks. But when you go to Tamaqua Memorial Parks and the others in Brightwood, there's a lot of nature there that you can enjoy, and that's healthy for everybody. So we're going to talk about some of the whole process that we've been going through in the last year. We've done a lot of listening throughout this process. We started out with internal and external assessments, looking at your facilities, your programs, assessing the parks, looking at some of those gaps and the opportunities. The most fun part of the process is the engagement phase, where we did a lot of public engagement, listened to a lot of people, and we'll show you some of the results of that. From that, the steering committee worked with us to develop a vision, mission, values, goals, and objectives for the future, for your next 10 years and beyond. And then from that, then we developed the plan. So none of these recommendations were predetermined, before the start. It was something that was based on what we heard from the community. One of the things we did was map a 10-minute walk to a park. Is that focused? Yeah, maybe a little bit more. That's about as good as it gets, I think. I hear you're going to be getting some new technology in here in the future. No. But the brown or orange areas is a 10-minute walk to a park, and the blue areas is a 10-minute walk to a school. So you've got 66% of your population lives within a 10-minute walk to a park, and 83% if you consider the school properties as well that have playgrounds and activities. So that's pretty good. That's a national program that I think about 300 mayors across the country have signed on to have a 10-minute walk to a park for everybody. So you're well on your way, but you can start seeing some of the areas that aren't in the blue and the orange that there's a gap. We also mapped 12 different recreation activities and facilities, playgrounds, ball fields, trails, all those types of things, and then layered those on top of each other. And what you see here is those red areas are the areas that don't have very good service in terms of recreation activities and facilities. And then the brighter the blue, the more facilities. So you start seeing some gaps in terms of where, who has access to a variety of facilities. So that was just part of the analysis. We did some benchmarking to 45 other communities. There's a national program for the National Recreational Park Association called Park Metrics, where a lot of communities put data into this program. So we looked at communities with a population between 10,000 and 50,000 in this region of the country. And what this shows is, in some of the facilities, that you're pretty close. You don't offer like adult baseball and community gardens or something that weren't available here that were in a lot of other communities. You have a similar or better level of service in other communities. But one I wanted to point out, for here, like rectangular fields, that was one of the discussions, and a lot of people came to the public workshops, just the other end of the building. A lot of kids with their soccer uniforms on came to those meetings. What this means is you've got 10,592 people per field, where in the average of those other 45 communities was 3,833. So about 3 times as many kids playing on each field than you have in a lot of the other communities. To tell you there's a real shortage of those types of fields. So that's one thing we had to deal with. And then going back to the point that your fields that you do have are overused and they don't have time to recuperate. So that's one thing to keep in mind. In the engagement, we had a statistically valid survey with 583 returned. We wanted at least 400, so I felt really good about that number. Over 1,500 surveys completed online, a lot of comments. We had 197 people come to the open houses and participate. We had dollar voting and dots that you could do, and a lot of comments. And some of those comments, when you looked at those, were more turf, more turf, more turf, and then next to that, no, no, no. So not everybody agrees on everything, but some groups would like to turf every square inch of area in town, and other ones want to keep it natural. So there's a balance there for everybody. We had 20 different stakeholder groups, and then a really active and good steering committee that worked with us throughout this process. A few of the results, I could put 100 slides up here on the survey results, but just to give you a few, we asked people, what are some of the main upgrades you'd like to see your existing parks? The blue are the results from the mail survey, that statistically valid random survey, and the green is what's from the web survey. But new and improved restrooms, which almost always comes to the top. Walking and hiking trails, drinking fountains, bike trails, trees, landscaping, shade, playground equipment, improved parking. And you can start to see that the sports groups that stuff the ballot box some, pushing for the artificial turf field and the sports field lighting, and that's okay. That's the way that you find out about these surveys. One is mailed to a random sample of homes. The other one is all the people that Don and his department have email addresses for, or that soccer coaches send out to, or lacrosse coaches send it out. So you're going to have a higher participation of the people in that web survey than in the other. And we expect that. But we want to hear from both those groups. In the statistically valid survey, we had two questions that were combined. One was, how well is your need met for some facilities? And then, what are the most important facilities for your families? And you take those unmet needs and what the higher priorities are, and you get this priority investment rating. So your walking and hiking trails, paved bike trails, natural areas, nature parks, small neighborhood parks, and large community parks all get a high priority. And then below that, there was even more beyond this, but medium is dog parks, swimming aquatic centers, soccer fields, playgrounds, picnic shelters. What you see is those types of activities that you do with your family, that you do your entire life, come to the top of the list. The sports facilities are a very important group to meet the needs of, but it's not the most important to a lot of residents. So that's something to keep in mind. There's a balance there again. We asked the same question for programs, and the types of programs with the highest unmet need and the most important to communities, or special events. And we see that all over the place. Those events and concerts and things that bring a community together are really valued by a community. That's what makes them unique. Adult fitness and wellness programs, summer concerts, programs for people age 50 plus, adult sports and nature programs are all the high priorities, and then youth sports, teen programs, and some of these others were the medium priorities. And then we asked people, what are the most important actions that the town should take? So upgrading your existing parks and facilities was by far what people thought was most important. Developing new recreation trails and connecting your existing trails. People love walking at Tamaqua, but they love to be able to walk to Tamaqua to get to it as well. And connect your other parks and schools and neighborhoods. Land for open space and green space is important. Upgrading your youth athletic fields, add lighting to the fields, outdoor recreation facilities, and an indoor pool were some of the top ones. So we had several stakeholder groups that we met with, I think about 20 different groups. And some of the things we heard from those groups, not in any particular order, because there's no way to document that, but again, that connectivity of the trails, improving your facilities, something for everyone. Again, not just the sports, but for everyone as well. Health and wellness are important. Year-round opportunities. So really, there's not a whole lot that the recreation department can do right now indoors. There's very limited space. So some other indoor space would be great. They could have a whole lot more programs if they had that. Better fields, artificial turf fields, the wrestling and cheer facility. And I have to tell you, when I heard the story of what they have to do every time they have a wrestling practice or a meet, what they have to go through to clean the floors in the Edison School cafeteria, bring the mats in on a trailer, clean the mats off, and then reverse that whole thing again every night. I really felt bad for those people. That's a lot of work, and at some point, I feel those dedicated adults are going to say, I've had enough of this. I can't do this anymore. I've got a real job I got to keep working at. So that's something that I think is definitely needed. Partnership with the Board of Ed could be strengthened, and there's some more opportunities there. More restrooms, being able to host some tournaments and bring some people from out of town with better facilities, and then more programs people would like to see. So those are some of the things we heard throughout those stakeholder groups. From all that, the steering committee, we had a long meeting where we went through some exercises to identify what a vision and some values for the future are. So that mission is your purpose and your reason for existence. And then a vision is what you want to be, 10 years down the road. What's your vision for the future? Then the values, what are those beliefs and guiding principles that you don't ever want to waver from? That should guide everything you do. And then from that, we develop a whole series of areas of strategic priority in your goals and your objectives. I'm not going to go through a lot of detail on those, but the vision that the group came up with was to lead, innovate, and grow through recreation opportunities. And then the mission is to build community, enhance quality of life, and provide a meaningful difference through parks, cultural arts, and play while preserving our diverse resources. And there was a lot of wordsmithing that went on back and forth in that one, for those of you that were involved. Then a few core values, the service, that quality of service, recognizing the history of this community, being innovative in your types of programs and activities, building a stronger community, always keeping safety in mind, developing a culture of customer service, wellness, and fun, and then inclusivity, making sure that everybody has access to the facilities and programs. It's 4 goal areas, and there are really more buckets to put the recommendations in, but one is great places and spaces. That's more of the physical types of things. Great experiences relates to the types of programs that you offer. The team empowerment and preparation is really getting your staff the tools they need to do those other 2 things above it. And then finally, operational excellence and fiscal responsibility, just to keep everything open and running effectively. So, getting into some of the recommendations. We have some site plans here from some of the parks I want to talk about. And the first one is Tamaqua. And let's make sure I don't hit the wrong button here. Yep, I think that's it. Yeah, there it is. Where do we start? One is, let's see, we've got another entrance off of Lambert's Mill Road, just to relieve some of that traffic congestion that you have at the entrance now. These white areas are more parking all along the perimeter and the outer part of that loop. There's a field house here for the wrestling and cheer and possibly some other activities. There's a potential development area back here. The town has put out a request for proposals to do a wetlands delineation study in that area so we can find out what we can and can't do in that area to see how much potential we have. But part of that is an old shooting range the police department used, and it's not much, the vegetation in that area is not very good. You can just push almost every tree over just by pushing it. But when you get back across the creek, it's a lot higher quality area. And let's see. Oops. Then we get up here, I think there's some old shuffleboard courts up in this area, but we're putting some pickleball courts and fitness equipment in that area. Where that old cabin restroom is would be replaced, a new bridge across the creek, and then improving the shelter in this area, and then developing this area that everyone in the area uses as their dog park anyway, making that into a formal dog park. It's a lot of shade, it's nice, people are used to that. You can run off leash and not break the law. So that could be a very nice area for that type of activity. And then developing some nature trails on the other side of the creek there, where it's really pretty over there. I don't know how many people live in that area. I'm sure have used it quite a bit, but a lot of other people just haven't explored it. Some other improvements up by the pond, developing a rental meeting type of a facility. It would be like a 4-season type of a shelter overlooking the pond. You have a fireplace and a garage door types on the side you can open up. Just some kind of a rental facility to get more space that people can use for programming. Be a great place for some of the summer camp programs that take place out there as well. And then, let's see, we're showing some walkways leading to some of the spectator areas at the ball fields. Really should have the dugouts and the bleacher areas accessible to a wheelchair. And that's something, since 2012, that's been required, and a lot of communities haven't done that. So that's something we're recommending there. And then we got a basketball court down in this area because we're taking the ones out up in this area to get more parking in that area. And then some of the fields that are in this area that are farther away from residents would put some lighting on those to get some additional use on those, but not the ones that are up closer to the homes. I think that's most of them in this park. Okay. Memorial Park, this area gets a lot of use. The main improvement here is taking the central area where the softball fields are and putting artificial turf in that entire area so you can maximize the use on that, but also adding lights, putting a paved trail around the perimeter of that, And that's one of the recommendations in the plan is more loop trails within the park. So people love the one at Tamaquas, but let's do that more often in more places. We're identifying, upgrading some of the playground equipment in that area. You've got a new restroom building there now. And then we're showing a potential space for a temporary ice rink to go in there, in the winter season, to get that out of Gumpert Park, thinking that you've got more parking available here, and then it could set up, but that's something to be considered. We've got some additional parking, expanding the parking up in this area a little bit, and then developing some of these nature trails that connect over to the Brookside Park Nature Trail next door. So that's Memorial Park. At Brightwood Park, that's a beautiful area. I just loved walking back in that area and sort of just trying to discover that site. But it's a hidden gem. I'm sure the people that do use it love it the way it is. But I think more of the community would like to see that. When you see the survey results that want more natural areas, more exposure to nature, this is a good area to do that. So what we're showing is improving some of the parking, putting a picnic shelter, a nature play area, which is more rocks and logs and those kind of things, not big, not a lot of plastic and metal. Some fitness equipment and a small restroom here. Putting like a canoe and kayak launch, a dock type area in this area. And then throughout the rear part of the park, developing some mountain bike trails in those areas. And you got a mountain bike group that will do that work for you, that will maintain that for you. And it also will be accessible for people to use that they want to walk their dogs or walk themselves. And then just upgrading some of the trails around the pond, adding a few bird blinds in some different areas so people can enjoy bird watching in those areas. So that's that one. Edison School, we started looking at possible places where you could put more artificial turf fields. And that was some of the controversy that started this process, as the mayor had talked about originally, was there's the study showing putting artificial turf in Tamaquas, but we felt that would really change the character. You put a big fenced-in area in the middle of that park, it would change the character of that park quite a bit. Whereas here you've got land, you've already got a lot of parking in the area, it's already fields, but it could get more use if we could develop it into some artificial turf fields. And you can see here, you can get 2 full-size soccer fields, the football practice field that's there now. I think the band might use it as well. And it says softball, but really it's the JV baseball field there. All that could be turf. You put some lights, you do a restroom and concession building, and you've got a facility that could be used by quite a bit of people. It'd have to be worked out between the Board of Education and the town, how that would exactly work, who gets access to it. All that would need to be worked out. But this is a concept at this point to explore further. Elm Street, again, another totally underused area. Like the idea of developing an artificial turf field there. It's a little bit smaller than the others, but you get a lot of, especially the smaller kids can play in here and get off of some of the other fields. We're showing those old tennis courts that are there that aren't being used for tennis courts, and somebody has taken a little paint roller and painted pickleball lines on them. They must bring their own nets, but they put some pickleball courts there, add some parking, do a small skate park in that area. It's more of a skate spot, we'd call it. A playground, and then an amphitheater area where you'd bring your chairs and sit out on the artificial turf. This is close to downtown, so we think this could be a real great thing as you bring people into this area and connect that with the downtown area. Houlihan Sidfay Fields, we didn't show the fields because the main improvements is the parking. And I saw that little bit of parking that was there in pictures of what it looks like on days when there's a lot of activity out there. And we need to take some of that area and develop more parking and a restroom. You got that many kids out there, you shouldn't have porta potties. It's not acceptable, really. So that's all recommending there is restroom facility and then organizing a lot of that area into some additional parking. I think here we're showing 77 additional spaces on top of what's there already. I think that could be rearranged some, but get a second access into that area. So that's some of the site plans. Some other recommendations in terms of capital improvements, mainly upgrading your existing facilities throughout everything, playgrounds, shelters, roads, parking, adding artificial turf fields, and mainly the areas we've shown you there. In addition, the Gumpert The fields, if we could do the infields and artificial turf, I think it was lower on the priority list, but it's something that should be done eventually. Again, there's not that many fields and they're overused. Add lighting at some of the fields. Develop a recreation center. Don't have a site yet, but that's something that the town really needs. And a field house at Tamaqua for wrestling, cheerleading, storage. And if it's that space where the town is doing the wetlands delineation can support it, maybe that's where the rec center goes, or some other types of indoor activities, possibly. Consistent signage throughout the entire system, so that the most positive service the town provides as your parks and recreation. So let's show it off. Let people know that this is one of our parks. It's not Union County's, it's not somebody else, it's yours. Improving the ADA access and handicap accessibility to all facilities. Again, something that should have been done by 2012 and needs to be addressed. We've shown you some concept plans there, but they really need to have some more detailed master planning done to them, more due diligence, and working with the neighbors in those areas that are affected, in those user groups that are involved in those activities. And so they need a further study. They're just concepts in here what could work. Linking the parks and the destinations through the bike and connectivity plan, pedestrian bike and ped plan you've got. More perimeter loop trails in the parks. Improve your restrooms. Add some pickleball courts. Outdoor fitness, especially since you don't have any indoor fitness facilities for the public to use. There's some nice, some of the newer equipment looks like what you see in the gym. It looks like treadmills and ellipticals and those kind of things. So you can get those in the parks, and especially if you can put shade over them, they can get pretty well used. More security lighting, cameras, and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is for both your staff, so they have access to Wi-Fi, and then also to the public that's using it more and more. And then the camera is just to protect your investment in a lot of these different types of activities and facilities. Some operational recommendations, and overall generally improving the maintenance, including the natural areas. I think some of those get ignored sometimes. Expand that partnership with the Board of Education to make better use of some of their fields. Consider hiring an aquatics manager separate from the assistant director position. Right now, Heather in the summertime is managing the pool, and that's, I think, all she's got time to do, but there's a lot of other things going on in the summer, so we think that's something you should consider. You could also look at some other programs coming from vendors and contractors rather than hiring more staff, so you can expand your programs without hiring people. And just a couple more here. You can develop, once you have these newer facilities, you can have more programs for more age groups and more people. Look at the actual cost of everything that you do and make sure you charge appropriate amounts for, just start looking, what does it cost to the facility where you're hosting a program, and what does it cost for the person that's running the program, so you make sure that you actually get the money back. Establish a Westfield Parks Foundation. Seeing some of the funds that have gone into Mandowskin Park over the years from their friends group is amazing, but I think that should spill over into some of the other parks as well. I think there's a lot of passionate people in this town that you could get money to go towards the other parks. The town doesn't have to do everything. We talked about signage, but really a consistent brand. When you go over to the recreation department in the office and you see the rack full of the programs, it's just all different colors and types of paper, and you need a consistent logo and a brand that you put on your website, on your signs, on all the promotional materials, on the brochures, everywhere, just to market that correctly. Really engage the neighborhoods during the improvement process of these parks. I think there's opportunities for some sponsors for some of these facilities and programs, and then update your technology through Wi-Fi for the patrons and the staff. So those are some of the key ones. There's a whole lot more in that several hundred-page document. At the end of the process, we had the steering committee rank pretty much 30, 40 some recommendations we had for capital. And these are some of the top 10 that they came up. We had them rank them as 0 for don't do it at all, up to 3 is something that's really highly important. So that group at the time came up with improving the existing fields as number 1, the ADA and handicap access is number 2, existing park facility improvements right after that, Memorial Park, and then Tamaqua's Park, the field house, the Edison School improvements, the restrooms throughout the system, Tamaulipas Park lighting, a recreation center, and then looking at your parking and roadway to improve, and expand some of those parking lots. So those are some of the top 10 of what that group decided at that point. The next steps in this process are to accept the plan, which will be happening soon, incorporate it into the re-exam report, establish your priorities for funding, and that's what council will be doing in the Recreation Committee. The more detailed master plans for the individual parks, as we said before, involving the neighbors and the users in those, and we identified some of the key sites. And then implement the plan and then update it and evaluate it annually, and every couple of years just go back to see what we've done, what haven't we done, and why haven't we done it, and have our priorities changed. So that was, in a nutshell, several hundred pages.
Questions, Mayor, in case anyone in the public has questions? So if you have a question, you want to set the microphone so we can capture it on camera and on audio, feel free to come up. Give your name and see if I can answer it.
This is working? Good.
Yep.
Great plan. Kudos. I'm a planner
Okay,
and an ecologist, so I really think it's a lot more than I expected. I'm the co-chair of the Green Team, Tim Van Epp. We are beginning to focus on the two primarily nature-type parks, Dunham and Brightwood, and kudos for identifying it as a unique natural area, Brightwood in particular. Yeah, it's a little bit remote and not a lot of people use it. We think that its natural aspects are in trouble, big trouble. There are a lot of invasive species there. Our experts are thinking that there's only a few years left before the park loses its natural attributes. There was a plan for restoration done in 2008 by an ecologist who focused on what species that needed to be eradicated, what native species needed to be planted and encouraged, what the habitats were, what the potential for attracting birds was, what birds were there, already. We think that, unfortunately, that plan wasn't implemented. The recommendations weren't implemented. The town didn't have enough funding at the time. But we believe that now is a good time, with all this park planning going on, to update that restoration plan. And so if you're planning to do a more detailed master plan for Brightwood, we think that an ecologist would be a good part of the team, and there should be a component that addresses invasive species, native species, and looks at the habitat needs for food and nesting and so forth for the birds and other wildlife there. So far, the concept plan focuses a lot on structures. There's a half dozen structures. There's a boat dock. There are bike trails. And my sense is that there's a cumulative impact of all that in a very small park relative to its natural attributes. And so I think before you implement some of these actions, some of these capital improvements, this master plan needs to be done. So rather than doing the master plan in parallel with capital improvements and bike trails and structures and boat docks, you should do the master plan first. It should have an ecologist as part of the planning team.
I agree 100%.
Okay,
that's
good.
what we've recommended, is that more detailed plan be done for several of these parks, just to go into more detail than what we've just doing a concept here.
Okay. Just very quickly as an example, it's a very small pond. If you put a boat dock there, people are going to canoe around it. If you remove all the vegetation from around the shores, you're not going to get wading birds, stopping there.
Right.
It's going to be too busy and too barren. So that's our comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, Denise Ritchie. As following up on the comments that were just made, I used Brightwood Park nearly every single day.
Great.
And I have some concerns about the plan that they have in your, I read through the study that you did, and I have some echoing his concerns. The wisteria, which is gorgeous, but is a huge problem in that park. And I'm concerned because right now, when I use the park for hiking and walking, there are occasionally people using it for biking, which is not a problem in the sense that it's one or two people sometimes and there's room. I'm concerned about how it's going to be when a bike trail gets put in and how that affects the people who are trying to use it for hiking. And I noticed on your thing today that hiking was one of the top issues. Right. I'm not against the cyclists, but I don't know how it's going to be integrated. So I think as you study it, that's something that has to be given a lot of thought.
Yeah, one of our thoughts was that trail around the pond would not be for bikes, but then the separate trails in an area that's totally unused right now.
And how would that be enforced?
That's another question.
I mean, that's what
right.
My concern is once you have the bike trails there,
right,
the people who are using them are going to expand it to use all the trails, I would think. So that's a concern I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Steve Kelly. My property backs up to Brightwood Park, and I would just like to follow up on the point that the young lady that was just up here said. In regard to the bike trails, are there any measurements in place that will deter people from riding ATVs or dirt bikes on those new mountain bike trails? Every now and again, in rare instances, I will hear or see an ATV go by in the park. Very rare. I just think that if there are now new mountain bike trails in there, I think that's going to be appealing to people that are riding motorcycles and stuff, and they're going to want to take advantage of that. Are there going to be any deterrents to prevent that from happening?
There could be. I mean, definitely it's be an enforcement issue.
Exactly.
How it's definitely signage, but that doesn't always keep people away. But designate areas where that those are not allowed. You wouldn't want any motorized vehicles out there. We've seen a lot of areas where mountain bikes and hikers can coexist, and then mountain bike groups typically will do a lot of the maintenance and the development of those trails. And if you try to walk back in some of those areas now where we're showing those trails, it's really hard to even walk back there because there's down trees and everything else. You wouldn't want to take an ATV back there now. You'd definitely run into something. But I can see people going around the pond in those now. So that's something that hopefully you get more people in there that would be watching out for what's going on in there. We've always found that if you have positive activities going on in a park, the negative activities will go away because they don't want to be where they're going to get in trouble. So,
thank you.
Good comment.
I too want to echo those concerns about allowing mountain biking in Brightwood Park. I've lived in Westfield almost 25 years. My family uses that park frequently. And I can tell you over 25 years, or maybe 23 and 24 years, that there are the occasional kids who come and bicycle in the park, and it's totally inappropriate because there are people, such as myself, who are hiking. And even to access the area that you've identified for mountain biking, they're going to have to go through the areas where people are walking in order to get to those areas. So I really think this is ill-considered. I don't think it's worth a lot of attention. It's just wrong for that park. And when I looked at I read very thoroughly everything about Brightwood Park in the program. I didn't read the whole hundreds of pages, right. But I read every section that dealt with Brightwood Park. And it wasn't until the end with the recommendations that you inserted the mountain bikes. There was nothing about mountain bikes. Everything was natural. And then mountain bikes. So I really question where this is coming from. I think there's a constituency of people who want it. And in my family, one of my sons is a mountain biker. But he doesn't mountain bike in Westfield. He learned to mountain bike in camp in the Pocono Mountains. That's where you mountain bike. And I think if you had said we're going to have water polo in the man-made lake in Westfield, everybody would say, water polo? You don't play water polo in Westfield. Well, we're Westfield. Mountainside is the side of the mountain. Summit's the top of the mountain. That's my point.
Okay.
I have one more point.
Sure.
One of my most enjoyable times in Brightwood Park was one Earth Day cleanup experience. I was with my friend Sydney Marshall, who used to be a resident of Westfield, and she's a PhD archaeologist. And going with her cleaning up was an amazing experience because she saw all kinds of artifacts from the Indians who used to live here in Westfield, and she also showed me different artifacts from the people who used to live in Brightwood Park in the 1930s during the Depression when they didn't have homes and they camped out in that area that's Brightwood Park. So there's a lot of history in that park. And again, the mountain bikes. I don't want to see the history obliterated by a use that really doesn't belong in Westfield. So that's my
But
point.
one of your points, though, is there's such amazing things in that park. We need to get more people to experience that. You had a unique experience. More people should be able to have that experience.
I agree, but not with mountain bikes.
Okay.
And
Right.
I'm fine with you
Okay.
having a little
Okay.
shed or something and teaching, or just having a nature person who, you know that person's going to be there every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 3, something like that. That's not a physical thing. That's a person.
Program, right.
Yeah, definitely. And birds, by the way. I've met many birders who come from outside of Westfield to that park because they know that there is a plethora, an amazing diversity of birds that come to that park. So that's something also that, I like the bird blinds and all of that.
Okay, great.
No mountain bikes.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Judy Augustino, and I live half a block from Brightwood Park. So I want to reiterate what everyone before me has said. In addition, I understand that Watchung Reservation has declined to include mountain biking trails in that park area, and still much larger space than what Brightwood Park is. I really think that Brightwood Park is not the place for mountain bikes trails.
All right, thank you.
But for the reason that it's negative environmental impact.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Sean Smith, 541 Cumberland Street. First, I wanted to thank you that I read all 521 pages. Well, I didn't read them all because a lot of them are images.
Skim through them, I hope.
No, a lot more detail than
Okay.
that. And I was fascinated by the fact that we have finally a fairly inclusive, or all-inclusive plan for the town. But some of the comments that you said earlier, I just took a little bit of exception with the concept of stuffing ballot boxes with children and parents who took the time out of their days to come and actually come to your different events. And the reason I say that is every weekend we have 4,000 children that are playing sports within the town. That's 8,000 residents and voters. That's 25% of your population. So when they're coming out and they're saying to you, this is what we prioritize, don't discount it because they come out in force.
I didn't mean to do that
Understood.
at all. Yeah.
Understood. But one of the core things that I heard up there is that the core values of town is that we want to have safe places for our citizens to enjoy. And I noticed that you only really talked about 2 of the Board of Ed fields, but we've got fields throughout the town that are candidly in deplorable condition. I think you talked about lack of maintenance, inability. And what I didn't see in the plan was any type of maintenance recommendations to the municipality other than you have to take care of this. And the reason I raise that is I don't know, not more than a decade ago, maybe it was a decade ago, Sycamore was redone and wasn't maintained, and now it's back to the exact same condition it was a decade ago. Unsafe, without a lot of real grass or turf, and it's not actually being used. I mean, there are a couple practices there a week, but it's not a field that's used on a regular basis.
Because of the condition, probably, right?
Well, and as a result, nobody's using it.
Right.
And we're at a point now where things do need to be done. And what I didn't hear from you was what's in the plan relating to the recommendations from a timing perspective as to what you recommend be the priorities. And I also didn't hear anything talking about the costs. And I think the citizens of the town should be aware of some of the significant costs associated with it. and that some of the recommended plans and the priorities that are contained in the plan are utilizing Board of Education fields that right now the town has no authority over.
Right.
And while there may be someday down the road a cost-sharing arrangement with either purchases or lease agreements, they don't exist. So while it exists as we sit here right now. So while that's there, I think it would be appropriate for the town and everybody that's watching right now to really understand what you as a consultant and ultimately plan provider or author of the plan prioritize and what the ultimate costs are associated with that so that we can be as citizens informed as to what we're trying to do here.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Hi, Julie Steinberg, 109 Belmar Terrace. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for making the ADA requirements such an important and prominent part of the plan. I don't even know if I could express how happy and excited so many of us were to see that included, and it fulfills a commitment that the mayor made to us and to many of us on the council here have made and have been making on an ongoing basis. And I want to thank you for putting it in there and making it a top 10 requirement. I just want to emphasize there were some great points, and I know you can't talk about every ADA issue, and I could not read every ADA issue, although I did search. But I just want to emphasize that in addition to providing access to things like the baseball fields and providing access to all the entry points, it's important that the things that once people are in there, that access is considered further. And I just wanted to make sure things like bathrooms and parking and equipment and the new buildings are also accessible, and ask that that just be considered. And I'm fairly confident that it will be, based on how carefully and thoughtfully this has been included in this preliminary presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. And well, we recommended an ADA assessment of all facilities, so that's something that we're recommending to be done. And there's some good consultants out there that will do that. And they go into, we looked at, the steepness of the walks and the width of the walks and those kind of things. They actually get to the point of looking at how much pressure do you need to open a doorknob and those kind of things, and we just don't have the tools to do that. And it really didn't mean to go to that level, but yeah, and everything should be more accessible to people. All new facilities will be, because they're required to be. But thank you.
Hi, my name is Peggy Oster. I live at 410 Topping Hill Road. I'm here as a resident and also as the board president of the Board of Education. One, as a resident, 30-year resident of the town, I thank you very much for all the work that you put in. Sports has been very important to my family, whether or not it be on a field, in a pool, or wherever. So I appreciate all the work that you did that, and the town has supported it. In reference to being the president of the Board of Education, I just want to say that, and I wasn't really going to speak this evening, but the board is willing to work with the town. We understand that the town is lacking in property for some of these fields and so forth, and we do really want to see how we can work together to come to a common goal for more fields for the community. The board works with a very strict budget every year. I think we're at about $110 million now. We are locked into a 2% increase every year, so we use that money and we try to put out a very fiscally responsible budget, and of course our main priority is the education of our students, and I think we do a great job at that. In reference to fields, I've been on the board, this is my 6th year, and we've discussed a lot of the fields in town. And the first time we really heard about the town wanting to use some of the fields that belong to the Board of Education really was in the beginning of January when I took over as the Rec Commission liaison to the Board of Education. So we have a lot of homework to do to decide what's best for the community, both in reference to fields, parks, and so forth, and also the education of our students. I say I look forward. Sounds like a big job, to working together, but I think it would have been great if we would have had a Board of Education member. I was very surprised to hear who was on the liaison committee, and it included Dana Sullivan, who is an absolutely, I cannot stress, an amazing business administrator for our community. But it didn't include one Board of Education member who are residents of Westfield and so forth. So we're a little disappointed that we weren't brought in beforehand to talk about this, and also to have given you a lot of the information that we have, because we've looked at these fields before and we have an architect who's looked at them, so we have spent money to do that. So I just want to let you know that we do want to work with you. We want to make this happen, but there are some discussions that have to be made with the Board of Education and the people that sit on the board, and Dr. Dolan and the rest of the school administrators. So, but I look forward to it. But thank you.
And we're looking for a win-win situation, something that benefits both groups. The town can do some things you can't, and vice versa. You've
Right.
got land that they don't have, so.
Right, and there's a lot of financial constraints, but, the master plan for parks is looking out 5 or 10 years. At the same time, you have to mix that with a plan that is a 5 or 10-year plan out for the schools. And we're very fortunate that our enrollment has not decreased like a lot of our adjoining communities, Scotch Plains, Cranford, Summit. We still stay steady at about 6,300 students. There's a lot of development going on in town. That number could go up. We have to take that into consideration, and we have to kind of mesh your 5 and 10-year plan with our 5-year plan, and do what's best for the community overall. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Randy Wojcik, 1120 Witchwood Road. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Rec, Board of Ed. Peggy, thanks for your words. And I want to emphasize one thing. I don't want to reiterate everything Sean said, but I think you need to put the users, like the head of Westfield Soccer, Westfield Lacrosse, on these things, on these steering committees, ecology. Everybody needs to be part of it. It seems like we come to these meetings and, I go to the rec meetings. I don't mean to be angry or anything, but we're not included from the beginning. And just like what Peggy said, a lot of this has been done. I think we need to be included. All the little groups, all the steering committees, all the ad hoc committees. We're all part of this town together. Let's work together. Thanks.
Yeah, there was about 20 different, we couldn't have everybody in every group in town represented on the steering committee. It would have been a ridiculous amount of people and hard to get them together. So we did have several stakeholder groups. So we met with the soccer groups and the baseball groups and the wrestling group. We met with all those groups to find out what their how they use now, the issues that they have and the concerns, and how things could be improved. So that's we met with a lot of those different groups to get that information.
I didn't mean to say it like that.
Yeah.
I was one of the people that know.
Right.
What I'm saying is when they form when we're prioritizing and forming the bigger master plan for each of these projects, bring these people on.
Oh, the individual plans for the individual parks. Okay, yeah, definitely. The user groups, neighbors and user groups are going to be key parts of those plans. Yep. Right. Again, the idea of these concepts is to try to show what could be done. Then it's a matter of priorities. Go ahead. He was already walking up, so
I'd just like to make a brief statement about Brightwood Park as well. My name is Evan Topolo. I live at 355 Arenda Circle. I lived right near Brightwood, and I'm still kind of in that neighborhood. And I too use Brightwood. And my son is a biker, and he likes to bike in there, and he would like to see more trails in there. The one observation that I would like to share with everybody is I feel like that park is totally underutilized.
Oh yeah.
Right? If you live, the people that live close by, they use it. There's a lot of dog walkers in there, but the majority of the people that I see in there are kids just horsing around because they don't know what else to do, right? And construction workers, people in commercial vehicles parked in the parking lot sleeping during the day. I mean, that's what you see in a park that's underutilized, right? So you go to Tamaulipas Park, during the day, and there's people there. There's people walking, running, biking, whatever they're doing there, and I just don't really see it at Brightwood.
Right. And then that's, again, we've always preached that, you know, the best thing to deter negative activities is positive activities, more people using a park.
Right. Thank you.
I'm sure you didn't mean to demean any construction workers or anything.
Very briefly,
Lifelong.
lifelong.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you all very much. Again, it's been a great working with the community here. So many passionate people in this town. Thank you. And I think the presentation will be up on the town's website later tonight.
That was a really comprehensive summary, you know? Oh yeah, me too. Absolutely.
David, not Mike.
So for anybody that came to see the parks plan, we will not be insulted if you get up and leave. So I only have to say it once, I know, but please don't feel like you have to stay. We'll now get to the business at hand. Mrs. Rowley, do we have any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, there are two advertised hearings. The first is General Ordinance Number 2156, an ordinance amending the code of the Town of Westfield, New Jersey, in order to expand the Board of the District Management Corporation of the Town of Westfield. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance Number 2156, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
The second is General Ordinance Number 2157, an ordinance establishing the Westfield Access and Inclusivity Council for the Town of Westfield. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance Number 2157, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed. Councilman Mackey, please move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2156.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2156 on second reading, an ordinance amending the code of the Town of Westfield, New Jersey, in order to expand the Board of the District Management Corporation of the Town of Westfield.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood?
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Dardia?
Yes.
Councilman Boyce?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would also like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2157 on second reading, an ordinance establishing the Westfield Access and Inclusivity Council for the Town of Westfield.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman LaGrippo. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood?
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Dardia?
Yes.
Councilman Boyce?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried. And I would like to call out Julie Steinberg, who came up earlier. She is the co-chair of this Access and Inclusivity Council. Has done an amazing job. So thrilled to be able to do this tonight, Julie.
Thank you.
So thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Council conference session and regular meeting of January 28th, 2020?
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Mackey, second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Hapgood. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Do we have any petitions or communications?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come up to the microphone and speak to the council on any subject on which we have jurisdiction. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 10 minutes.
Hello. Andrew Stillifson, 667 4th Avenue, Westfield. I'm here tonight as the co-chair of the Union County chapter of JORBA. JORBA is the Jersey Off-Road Bicycling Association. We're a statewide, not-for-profit volunteer organization, and we partner with land managers all over the state to build and maintain sustainable trails. Just a little bit about JORBA. We really have three purposes. The first is to advocate for open access to trails and for trail etiquette. The second is to grow and to support the sport of trail riding, mountain biking, in all of its forms. The third purpose we have is to build and maintain sustainable multi-use trails. When I say multi-use, I mean all users: bikes, hiking, trail runners, equestrians. And in particular, I'm here tonight to endorse the plan for mountain biking trails at Brightwood Park. We are ready, willing, and able to partner with the town to build these trails. And good news, we will build and maintain these trails for free. We have our own equipment, volunteers, we're fully insured. Second, it'll be easy to work with us. Both of myself and the other co-chair are Westfield residents, and we already have a dialogue with Recreation Commission about possibly partnering with the town to build the trails here. So I hope that you endorse the plan to make it one of your priorities tonight, and we're ready, willing, able to go. Separately, as a Westfield resident, I just want to say I think it's a great idea. I disagree with the notion that it's inappropriate to have kids riding their bikes on trails. I think it's a great idea. I think Brightwood is a great park for it. We already have a club team in Westfield composed of high school and middle school students, and soon there will be a competitive team formed under NICA. That's the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So right now we have a strong demand for kids to ride their bikes on trails, and this will be a great place for it. And second of all, I think there will be little impact to the neighbors. I definitely think the neighbors should be listened to when you're implementing any of the plans here, but putting trails in a wooded area really have minimal impact. And the last point I want to make is that mountain bikers greatly believe in trail etiquette. I think someone mentioned before, how would you police bikers going on trails where they're not supposed to go? Well, mountain bikers understand that trail access can be taken away as easily as it can be given. So we strongly support trail etiquette. That's yielding to other users, do not build rogue trails, and basically be decent people to other people on the trails. Be respectful. So in closing, I just ask you to please endorse the Recreation Commission's priorities for the Parks Plan, including mountain biking at Brightwood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just reiterate what we had said earlier for the public. So none of these things will go into practice without a more detailed vetting of the plan in each of these parks and input from all the users, neighbors, and so forth. So I don't want anybody to think by us endorsing this tonight, it means it's all happening as is. There will definitely be further notification to the public before any of these plans move into a place where they're going to be implemented without full disclosure and input from everybody. So this is absolutely not even remotely the last word on any of this. There will be more to come on each of these parks. So just have our assurance on that. Anybody else?
My name is Bob Lewis. I live at 112 Clifton Street. I've been there for 43 years. And I've also worked for the town as a crossing guard for 26. So recently I saw the logo that the town adopted for the tricentennial. And since I work with wood, I thought maybe I can do something to give to the town for this. So I've got something here I'd like to present you with.
Oh, that's really nice.
Well, you have to know 4 of us are up here at Washington Street, Karen, and Bob was our beloved crossing guard at Washington. And
I recently had a picture that I submitted to a national magazine, and it mentioned my name and the town.
He brought it by my office. And what you might not know about Bob, for every 5th grader that graduated from Washington, and I still have it for my kids, he created a wooden carving of their name.
Oh, wow.
Goodness.
I've been doing that for about 10 years.
It's quite
That's so
amazing.
nice.
This is unbelievable. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, what the color was that they used.
And this is the color
This is the color they used. And
Ah.
everywhere I could find it.
This is so special. I can't believe it. Thank you so much. Wow, that is unbelievable.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's cool. All right, well, that made my night. Anybody can come up with comments like that at any point, so. Anybody else? I don't know if anyone can top that, Bob. Any other comments?
I think there was 1 or 2 more.
Yes, more? Okay. Evan. Oh,
It's amazing.
amazing.
You pass that around?
Yeah.
Hey, Evan Topolo again, 55 Arenda Circle. I'm coming to the council as a follow-up to the initial inquiry I had about the street cutting and the road ordinance, and I know that after my presentation to the council, I also went to the planning board and we spoke at the planning board, and I think the discussion was kind of positive. And one of the follow-ups, I'm really here to follow up on that discussion to see if we can get the builders or some of us back into the fold as far as what decisions may be made on an adjustment to the ordinance. So I know
I'll
that.
speak to that.
Okay.
So we are having a meeting on the 19th where we're going to first meet with Elizabethtown Gas.
Okay.
And go over some of the implications that the ordinance has had on the builders through the fees that they're charging.
Mhm.
So let us get through that meeting. It's essential that we have that meeting first, and then you can reach out and we will follow up. We plan to make some amendments to the ordinance, and so we'll certainly hear your concerns.
Okay. Thank you very much. We love the input, and I look forward to speaking about it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, Brendan Galligan, 535 Pearson Street, and I'm also a member of the Board of Education, currently serving my 4th term. Let me clarify that I'm here as myself and as a board member, not representing the whole board. We just had our ethics training last week, so they really stressed. Anybody who knows me knows that I've been a strong advocate for the town and the schools partnering to share services, share resources, ever since I was elected back in 2012. I got elected right after the town voted down the ordinance, the bond referendum for the turf field project, plus the lights and the roofs all at the high school. Transparency was a huge part of that discussion as to why the voters voted it down. The common thinking is that everybody would have approved it had they been given 2 or 3 questions to approve, not trying to bundle everything all together. One key phrase that I saw in the Parks Master Plan was partnerships will be required at the early phases of the process in order to develop master plans for development. And that's why I'm here. It seems like the Board of Education has been kept in the dark during the development of the comprehensive plan that includes acquiring large portions of our land. Collaboration and partnerships require working together from the very beginning. Waiting until after this council approves the plan puts us in a very awkward position. The public's seen the blueprints, the public's seen the plans for turf fields on multiple school properties. If we can't come to an agreement, that makes us the bad guy. That's what, we're almost forced into an agreement because the public's now expecting a turf field at Edison. I know that's not the absolute truth, but that's what the perception is. Yes, Dana Sullivan was part of the Parks Plan Steering Committee, but she's not a board member. She's a wonderful woman. We could not function without her. But she was asked to keep her conversations with the steering committee confidential, and she did that. The first we heard of anything related to our fields was January 16th, 3 weeks ago, when the 522-page document was sent out to us. A little bit of light summer reading. I got through it in the last couple of weeks, and I like a lot of what I see. I love the plan for Memorial. I love the plan for Brightwood. I like the direction that Tamaulipas is headed. I've lived here for 31 years. The parks are great. They can always use some extra work. I just wish that a board member or two had been included in the steering committee for the plan, for the parks plan, like Gretchen Oleg was for the main master plan. But the Parks Master, the steering committee was not the only opportunity for the council to fill board members in on the plans. Like I mentioned, we have Gretchen Oleg serving on the Master Plan Steering Committee. Our board president, Peggy Oster, meets with you, Mayor Brindle, on almost every week.
No, but fairly frequently, yeah.
We have David Contract as our board liaison, and we have a board member that goes to every single rec commission meeting. I sat in on a couple of them over the last couple of years. No mention of any interest in acquiring board fields. We're not opposed to working with you guys. We want to work with you guys. We want to continue the collaboration. We just wish we were brought in earlier in the process so that we could save you guys some time. We've spent a lot of money research, paying architects and engineers to do all the preliminary research that you guys have already had just duplicated. Between wetlands, easements, DEP permits needed to work behind Edison. There's a lot of work that's been done, and there's reasons why we didn't proceed with projects. There's a reason, same reason Jefferson wasn't turfed. There's stormwater management issues. One key thing in the parks plan that stood out to me was every single town property was on a 3 to 5 year plan. The school properties were on a 0 to 2 year plan. Why is acquiring our property more important than turfing the fields that you already own and control? But then really, why am I up here talking about why we need to control board fields? Well, the master plan itself says the town's population is expected to increase 20%, roughly, I'm rounding up, in the next 10 to 20 years. If we assume that that's a normal relationship between the student population and the overall town population, we're going to have 1,000 more kids in the school system. That doesn't include full-day kindergarten. That doesn't include, I forget which legislator, but somebody has a bill introduced that's going to require us to do pre-K as well. We could be looking at 2,000 more kids in the school system, and we are out of space already. The worst thing we could do is have the town take a school field, turf it, and then because we didn't do our due diligence, we then have to go to the voters to ask them to tear up a brand new turf field so that we can put a classroom in. So I'm asking that the council, if you're going to approve the parks plan, table section 8.6 for school fields. Have a conversation with us. We want to work with you. We want you to work with us. Just make us part of the conversation from the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brendan, let me just address a few of the comments that you made. Absolutely. Actually, quite the contrary of what you're suggesting. We actually thought we were being incredibly inclusive, and actually it was suggested to us to put Dana on the steering committee. No one ever if someone had said, you know what, Board of Ed folks might be better representations, that would have been fantastic.
Well, I don't disagree. we're very good at maintaining our own silos, and we're trying to work together.
So
more.
my only point is, honestly, I don't know what more we could have done, and we didn't go into this parks plan saying, let's go take a look at school fields. We just wanted to say all options are on the table, right? And so if so, let's include someone representing the school district so they're not in the dark if any of those recommendations come out. So, and I meet with them regularly, which I think is something that had happened previously. So we talk all the time, and I was with Dr. Dolan for 2.5 hours today. So, no, I think the relationship between the town and the schools have never been better. We are absolutely so aligned in doing what's right for the taxpayers, right? I don't think taxpayers care. Quite frankly, a lot of taxpayers don't know what's your fields and what's our fields because they think we take care of everything. We get your complaints too. Right. So I think at the end of what we're trying to look at this, we should collectively, and I've certainly talked to Dr. Dolan and Peggy about this, what is in the best interest of the taxpayer, period, right?
Absolutely. There's no argument for me there.
Absolutely. So we'll all figure that. And just to your question about why were the school fields on the 0 to 2 year plan, it's my understanding, I wasn't on the steering committee, but it's my understanding is that based on what I've heard from the Rec Commission, the #1 priority for fields was expanding capacity. Everything that's in a town field wasn't expanding capacity, it was just turfing existing fields. The Edison actually expanded capacity, and that's why they said do that one first, and then you could work on turfing existing fields when you've got this already expanded capacity. So it wasn't like, let's do the school fields first because they're not ours. And by the way, yes, is there a lot of work to do? We wish we'd have known you. And Dana, maybe she took it very literally that you weren't allowed to say anything because I was surprised to hear that. But these shared service agreements with schools are not unusual. They happen all over the state. Bridgewater is the perfect example.
Woodbridge been touching.
So yeah, so I've always believed there's a solution to every problem, and even addressing if we agree on population issues and so forth. We're all in this together, right? So yeah, so no one's going to move without the other, and I think in talking to Dr. Dolan and to Peggy, we've already. There'll be a collaborative working group and a new master plan, and we'll get to solutions that work for everybody. But no, I just think our interests are very mutually aligned.
Oh, absolutely. Just like we saw with, once the blueprints are out there, people assume that's what's happening. So if things have to change, then it becomes the school board didn't approve.
Well, let me ask you this. Other than practical considerations, which will reveal themselves, right? If, I don't know, something comes up and it's not feasible, do you have an objection to this potential?
In concept, absolutely not.
Okay.
I think it's a fantastic way to get a project done that wouldn't get done otherwise.
Great. So then that's where we start, right? And I think all I can say is, our assurance, if these things don't materialize for very pragmatic reasons, I mean, we'll own that, right? But I do think the public would give us a lot of credit for working together to actually see, and if it doesn't work, at least we can say we work together and this is the reasons why we can't. But, and we would jointly own that. That wouldn't be, we would never put you guys in that position.
Politics.
Yeah. Well, for some, I guess. So, all right.
I'm just like Brendan, if all-day kindergarten does go through, any idea where it would go, or you're not at liberty to say?
So we had originally pushed forward a plan to possibly go to the voters in March. We pushed that back to at least September while we're exploring another option. We put an addition on Jefferson and Washington schools. Okay. We heard a lot of pushback from the Washington families, particularly about just the space constraints there. And that's what caused us to start looking at other options.
Great. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Brendan.
it.
Hi, Sean Smith, 541 Cumberland Street. I was glad that colloquy just took place because I was, as a citizen, very disappointed to learn that the Board of Ed felt that they were completely left out of this. And I agree with the board members' assessment under the plan that the board fields or the Board of Education fields were prioritized as the 0 to 2 period. And I've heard rumblings, and it's been confirmed that there have been prior studies before. So I'm a little disappointed as a citizen that our Board of Education spent money exploring field options, and I know that in 2012 there was a turf field option that was done that was voted down, but that through the entire rec plan nobody reached out to the Board of Ed and said, can we have all of the plans that you did previously.
And I just
related to your-
reiterate, their business administrator was on the steering committee, so there was nothing that prevented anyone from saying this had been done. So I just want to make sure that's very understood.
Understood.
Okay.
And anybody from the council could have called the Board of Ed president and said, could you pass this on? I understand that there were plans previously done. And as a citizen, I'm very disappointed to hear that we've now spent taxpayer dollars on 2 separate assessments of the same fields.
Let me just be very clear. We haven't done any assessment on Edison. We have a concept plan. So anything that the Board of Ed has done will actually be able to inform the master plan of Edison. Nobody duplicated spending at all.
I hope that's the case.
That is indeed the case.
Okay, well, the public records will
So,
confirm that
of
one way or
course,
another.
absolutely. So thank you very much.
And with regard to the Board of Ed and their participation, there is a significant difference between a municipal field and a Board of Education field. The Board of Ed can't do a lot of things with their property without permission of the voters. The town council can do a lot of things with the municipal fields without permission of the voters.
Of course, we know
And when
that.
you talk about capacity, the plan actually provides for 4 softball fields, 2 additional multi-purpose fields that are smaller, and then a full-size soccer field at Memorial. And at Edison, 2 fields. Memorial right now has 4 softball fields. You're adding 3 fields there. And Memorial is pushed back. So when the board member does say to the council, you're prioritizing the Board of Education field over the municipal field, that's actually accurate considering the report. And the capacity issue isn't as accurate as it was led on. One is adding 3 fields, one's adding 2. But that being said, I hope that the transparency, if it hasn't been there from the Board of Ed's perspective, that barrier is eliminated. I know citizens are very interested in this. We are watching the council. We are watching the Board of Ed because we are concerned and we don't want to see politics. We want to see action.
There's no politics. So thank you very much for coming again. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, I close this portion of the meeting and move to bills and claims.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $331,411.27.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Reports of standing committees, being the Finance Policy Committee. Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 9 resolutions that I'd like to move as a package. A resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department fees, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant to refund street opening cash bond, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Board of Adjustment application fee, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund a tree removal permit fee, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for dog licenses for January 2020, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for overpaid taxes in 2019, a resolution authorizing the town attorney and tax assessor to file counterclaims, a resolution to establish the sewer fees for 2020, and a resolution to approve the Westfield Memorial Pool membership rates.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion?
May I like to ask, I'll be voting yes, but on the sewer fee, I'd like to ask if we could table the vote until the Finance Committee takes a further look at it.
Can you expound on that, please?
Well, honestly, I was disappointed that the first finance meeting, the ordinance was already drafted for the rate increase without ever any type of discussion. So I asked that the Finance Committee table this and everyone here votes and we look at it further on the Finance Committee.
Actually, the ordinance exists for us to adjust the sewer fees every year according to the
But
needs of the town, so
But there was no discussion.
yes, there was. We absolutely opened it up to
It was already
to have a-
drafted to, was already done as
The
far as I'm
proposal-
concerned in the meeting. I mean, Mark, he was there, he could vouch.
There was a proposal for us to consider, and we discussed it.
I've been on the council for 8
it-
years and I've never seen anything done like that.
So, Mark, what are you suggesting?
I just suggest we table it, take a further look at it, and, I want to work with everybody and try to bring, the biggest thing I hear about being on the town council is affordability for residents. And it doesn't, some people might say it's only $30 raising it to $195, but, I always looked at it as a way, we reduced it in 2017, we kept it stable in 2018, 2019. And,
So, Mark, let me ask you a question. So from 2014 to 2016, the sewer fee was reduced by $190,000. Did you also suggest each of those years to reduce the fee?
I voted for the sewer fee when it was implemented in 2012. That was during the recession, Hurricane Irene, Hurricane Sandy. And
Let's say
at that point it was
2015, it was reduced by $130,000. Did you suggest reducing the fee to residents at that time? Because it
yeah,
was.
we did reduce it in
Not in-
2017 and 165.
Actually, I'm sorry, let me just be clear about this. 2017, the sewer fee went up $142,000, and the council reduced it by $5 during an election year. In 2014, it went down $50,000. There was no change. 2015, it went down $130,000. There was no change. In 2016, it went down $6,500. There's no change. So my question is, now that it's gone up $750,000 over the last 3 years, and we're suggesting raise it $30 a person when it hasn't been raised ever, why are you suggesting that now when you didn't suggest decreases then?
Yeah, because an 18% increase is quite significant to most taxpayers, and especially, honestly, Mayor, it shouldn't be discussed here. It should have been discussed further in the Finance Committee.
But Mark, it was discussed. We discussed it at 2 of our meetings. Jim made a recommendation to us for us to discuss. Now, you opposed the recommendation. That's okay. That's why we're voting on it tonight. There's no problem with you opposing it. But it was discussed, so don't lead the voters to believe it wasn't discussed. It was discussed. You were in the meetings.
The ordinance was already drafted. It was given
Mark,
to me.
the ordinance is always drafted. Jim just filled in the numbers.
We were talking about just raising the fees within the confines of the existing ordinance.
It was already done. I saw the piece of paper before we ever discussed it as a committee.
But Mark, we have lots of pieces of paper at the budget meetings, and those pieces of paper are often put together by the town administrator to make recommendations to us about ways that we can proceed. We had 2 full discussions about this, and as Councilman Contract said, you are more than welcome to oppose it.
Well,
But we've held the sewer fees constant over the last few years for the very reason that you mentioned, that we want to try to keep costs for residents down. At this point, when we've had a $200,000 increase in the sewer fees again this year, and the idea originally was to keep it balanced between the costs that the town supplements and the costs that go to the residents, this is a rebalancing, 50% to the residents and 50% coverage by the town.
Which was what was originally intended back in 2012.
Well, what was intended, and I don't,
Well, I think that was very
I think it's in the records.
But,
We went back and
no, I've just, honestly, I've been on the council 8 years. I've never seen that before, but that's fine. I mean, I'll be voting no, but, carry on.
And just understand, though, so you're suggesting table it, which would mean, there is a time period when we have to pay the bills and when revenue comes in. So what you're suggesting, if it gets tabled, the town's going to have to front all the expenses, which is actually going to end up costing us more money in absence of getting any revenue. And if you actually wait till the budget is adopted, we would be out millions of dollars because we couldn't anticipate this revenue for this year. So I'm not quite sure, even by tabling it, what it is you're suggesting.
No, I'd like to further discuss it in the Finance Committee, but that's fine. I'd like to see, as far as I haven't seen anything from, who's our RVSA coordinator for the town liaison with RVSA? Honestly, I'd like to speak to see, why we're, increasing so much compared to other municipalities.
Well, actually, it's not compared to other municipalities, so it's, and Jim would know better than I would, but it's the sewer fee relative to other municipalities and the increase.
The sewer fee is increased or decreased every year based upon each municipality's flow rights in the RVSA, and then their measurement over a 5-year moving average of flow, suspended solids, which no one wants to talk about, but there's lots of different things that have to happen. So it's a 5-year moving average, and every town is assessed based upon their flows, and there's meters in certain locations around town that measure that. So again, this year the increase for us is just over $210,000. But there are measurements that we get a bill, and our current representative, Mr. Rothfelder, obviously has provided information, but all he can do is provide information that's provided to him at the board about what the increases are and how it comes up, which is also explained in a letter we get every year as part of the bill, which is in the Finance Committee's package. So, but yeah. So, and just a point about tabling. Again, the ordinance that currently governs the sewer fee requires that bills be sent out by the end of February. That's done for a reason, so that the bills can be sent out, and then there's a waiting period, and the bills are to be collected April 1st. The way it was designed that way so we could actually collect the first half of the revenue by the time the first bill was paid in April. And then the second half of the bill comes, I think, is maybe October, November, and that's the half that the town subsidizes. That's been the practice as best we can, and that's why the ordinance that's creates the time frame that exists now. So just to your point, Mayor, if it was to be tabled, if the council wanted to do that, that would require the ordinance to be redone. Right now, it's a resolution under the current ordinance, just for clarification. So.
Thanks.
I just want to point out a couple of things. First of all, Mark, I think we did have a fair amount of discussion about it. I think there was a discussion, about the level of the increase, and then there was a secondary discussion about just fundamentally, are you opposed or not opposed to increasing it in the first place? And I think we all recognize that since 2015, the sewer fees have gone up by almost $1 million. And that's something that the town has no control over, and that we need to kind of remedy that and pull it back in. The second thing that I'm not sure that we've discussed is the fact that the increase is actually built in to the ordinance that was drafted or actually amended in 2015. So the ordinance that was amended in 2015 permitted the increase that the council is, or that we're proposing, the finance department or committee is proposing today. I'd point out that in 2015 you voted in favor of the increase to begin with. And so in concept, back in 2015, in December of 2015, the idea of the sewer fees increasing up to a certain level that was not expected, B, that this would be an ordinance that would go through not for only a limited period of time, for example, expiring in 2015, but now there's no expiration date in the ordinance. And then C, to the level that we're discussing today, is something that that I think you discussed and would have deliberated on and concluded was appropriate back in 2015. And so I think that tabling it doesn't make, in my view, doesn't make sense.
I
don't think there's any other way for us to go about it, and it's permitted by the ordinance to begin.
Honestly, we never discussed the dollar amount was on the draft when we came in. You know that.
Right.
And we didn't discuss, as a part of a committee, I would have liked to see how we got to that 190. And I know how we got there, but obviously, I'm not comfortable with the process, but I'll be voting
in
no.
context, we could have raised it by half of the amount that we're raising it, and that would save every taxpayer 4 cents a day. So I think we're kind of splitting hairs at this point, so maybe we should just vote.
Yeah. Well, maybe we, should look and incorporate that into the overall tax, because at the end of the day, it's not fair if a family of one or a household of one pays the same.
Yeah,
and then
Mark,
we've had this discussion.
Those things are absolutely legitimate things to talk about. That's why it was raised and why we debated it in 2 meetings, on a Saturday and on a Tuesday night. But I didn't see any counter proposal from you on this until we got here tonight.
I didn't have time. It was already, the price was already negotiated.
No. Okay, so
All right, we'll
shall
disagree,
I repeat
but
myself
okay.
about the pieces of paper at the budget meetings? I can. The pieces of paper at the budget meetings are recommendations, and at that point, we had a full discussion as a finance committee about what we would do about the sewer fees for this year. Okay?
Fair enough.
Okay, so we'll vote on all of them, and so all in favor? All 9? Yes. So we'll want to pull out the sewer fee and do that one separately?
I'm voting yes on all except.
So why don't we vote on 1 to 7 and 9 and leave 8 separate?
Yes.
So you've already had a motion.
Yes.
For all 9.
That's right.
So I think you need to vote, and it's noted on the record for Tara's purposes that Mr. LaGripa will be voting no on number 8.
Okay.
Just want to make sure the motion still goes forward.
Fantastic. So all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
No.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is the Public Safety Transportation Parking Committee. Councilman Daria.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 resolutions that I would like to move as a package. Number 1, resolution supporting the establishment of a fire chaplaincy program for the Westfield Fire Department and the appointment of fire chaplains. And number 2, resolution authorizing the Westfield Police Department to participate in the Law Enforcement Support Officer LASO 1033 program.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hapgood. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
I would also like to move General Ordinance number 2158 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood?
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Dardia?
Yes.
Councilman Boyce?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried. Next is the Code Review and Town Property Committee. Councilman Mackey.
I move for the adoption of a resolution referring the Parks and Recreation Master Plan to the Planning Board.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
I also have 2 ordinance for introduction this evening. The first is General Ordinance Number 2159, an ordinance establishing the Human Relations Commission for the Town of Westfield. I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2159 on first reading.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hapgood. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood?
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Dardia?
Yes.
Councilman Boyce?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried.
I would also like to move Special Ordinance Number 2219 on first reading, a special ordinance authorizing the sale of town property known as 320 Virginia Street, Block 5706, Lot 2, in the Town of Westfield.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion?
I
Please.
just want to make sure, just so it's clear, again, this is a portion of Lot 2, which is a 1,800 square foot portion to square off the resident who requested its lot. There's still almost an acre of property the town owns, which will be maintained as a natural area. This is a very small portion of Lot 2, just to be clear.
Great, thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Hapgood?
Yes.
Councilman Parmalee?
Yes.
Councilman LaGrippo?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mackey?
Yes.
Councilman Contract?
Yes.
Councilman Dardia?
Yes.
Councilman Boyce?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion is carried. And the reports from department heads are accepted.
Mayor, can I just make one quick?
Absolutely.
Just an announcement, just to make sure residents heard. The Conservation Center, we were able to open it every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 12 noon. If you want to take advantage of all the recycling opportunities, including the food waste, and I'm looking at Bonnie. She shakes her head yes. So I know the Conservation Center is only open every other Saturday, but it is open Monday through Friday in the morning, 9 to 12, for all the recycling. Follow the road signs to be safe in there, but we made a special arrangement with the Public Works Department, so thanks to Director O'Neill, so we can keep the momentum going on all the recycling.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion to adjourn? By Councilman Rabbit, seconds. Second. Second by Councilman Hapgood. All in favor?
Yes.
This motion is carried.
Want to go ask any questions?
All right, Mark, I'll see you